Sean and Dave here from the Saturday Morning Cartoons podcast. We want to let you know about an exciting new sponsor that we have this week. Dave, how much do you value your sleep every single night?
Every single night, I would have to say priceless.
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 And we've all heard the adage, sleep like the dead. We are excited to introduce Tombstone Mattresses this week. Tombstone Mattresses, giving you a sleep so comfortable you will sleep like the dead. Now, Dave, you've been using one of their mattresses for the past 30 days. Right. And how have you felt?
I feel like, do you remember the WWE wrestler, The Undertaker?
Of course.
I feel like I was cradled in his loving arms and tombstoned right into the mat of a WWE ring and just out cold. It's that kind of like concussed unconsciousness that you can only get with a Tombstone mattress. I feel fantastic.
Tombstone Mattresses is also committed to ensuring that you love your purchase. Their tagline is, of course, till death do us part. And that's how committed they are. They will send you a free mattress for you to evaluate. And at any point in time, if you're not 100% satisfied with this mattress, you can send it back. That means that Dave's mattress at any point in time, he can send it back for a full refund. So Dave, tell us a little bit more about how you can save this 20% discount that we have that we're giving away to our listeners.
Well, I got to say, I'm glad that they have that option of a refund with free shipping because these things weigh a literal ton. They are made out of Georgia granite, fine cut right here in the great state of Georgia. If you pay an additional $50 fee, now this is just for fun, this is just like a little icing on top, they will carve your name and your loved one's name into your very own Tombstone mattress. Just for a little extra cherry on top. You don't have to do that if you're feeling a little, you want to splurge on your Tombstone. You can do that. However, if you head to tombstonemattresses.com/SMC, look for the keyword and put in morning, and that's morning with a U, which is very appropriate. This is why we chose this sponsor. You will get absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing, guys. These are not real. These are not real advertisements.
I kind of wish that it did because I sleep like ass. I'd love to sleep like the Undertaker, just like knock me out, but
just suplex you into submission into sleep for a night.
Just bruise my spine to the point of unconsciousness so I can get my 8 hours of sleep. That's all I'm asking.
Who doesn't want that? Look, guys, we're of course joking around, but we are deadly serious about having you go and check out patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. We want to try to keep this show as free of advertisements as possible, and we can only do it with your listener support. So if you head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons, you can contribute, you can become a donor, a regular monthly donor even, and you can help support quality podcasts like Saturday Morning Cartoons.
And some of the folks out there who have already supported us through Patreon, we are going to thank them right now. So that goes to Derek Haynes, Jason Woods, Melanie Harker, Allison Keene, Sean Paul Ellis,
and Dave Trumbore.
Yeah, that's me. The reason we mention ourselves here, you might recognize some of those names, is because we want to let you guys know that we are putting our own money back into this podcast. We're not asking you to front the whole thing. We're just asking you to help us support and grow and improve the quality of the podcast over the months and years. And we are putting our own money in for that. And we ask that even if you can't afford a monthly donation or monthly tip, we should say they're not really donations since it's not charitable. Even if you can't do that, we would love it if you would be able to just share the links with your social media circles. We really would appreciate it.
So that's everything, guys. Patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from the North Pole, I'll be your toy soldier, Dave Trumbore. Oh boy. Joining me as always, he's wearing his full metal jacket. It's Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, Sean?
David, I'm doing well, buddy. How about yourself?
Sometimes I don't reread over my own intros, and then they catch me off guard. And today is one of those days. It's like I don't even know who wrote this. It's like a ghost writer came in and just wrote this and was like, "Yeah, sure, dummy, just read it on air."
These are like fun journal entries that you've written to a future self, and when you reread them, you're like, "I don't remember what the context was. Yeah. Is this the movie from the 80s, Toy Soldiers?
Yeah, it sounds like I'm talking about like a Christmas show or something. I like reread it. I'm like, what am I, like one of Santa's little helpers? Am I like a wooden nutcracker or something? Is this the Nutcracker Suite? No, it is not. It is a great American story about a great American hero.
Oh, man. What kind of hero are we getting into?
A general infantry hero by the name of Joe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that what it really means? General infantry?
I think so, yeah.
Huh. I'm going to be honest with you. I've been watching G.I. Joe for a very long time. It never occurred to me that I should probably Google this.
I want to say it's general infantry. I think like the original, 50s, 60s toys were general infantry. And then it wasn't like, a lot of people thought Joe was the name of one of the dolls. It wasn't. They were all like, I think it was like Duke. Probably not heavy duty or high tech.
Shipwreck.
Shipwreck. Cutter.
Hey guys, I'm Shipwreck.
You know, I think there was a ninja G.I. Joe named Shebang.
Stop
Shebang.
it. Shebang?
Shebang.
Oh,
It was before the William
out.
Hung era, but I'm pretty sure it was Shebang. I cannot wait to go home and find all my old G.I. Joe toys. But I did not have any toys from this particular cartoon show, probably because it only came out about 12 years ago and I was not collecting toys at that point. Did you ever watch this one?
I had no idea that this existed.
No.
In fact, I kept continually reading this as G.I. Joe 6 Sigma.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was going to be sort of like a management
Yeah,
style
like a business spinoff.
training seminar, you know, where I would learn how to like better manage and then I would upgrade in belts to get to like a black belt 6 Sigma.
Yeah, to get like
this was
field
going to be
status.
some type of a right. I really thought that this was going to be a field status pyramid scheme in order to rope in high-level, C-level executives to come in to learn something, and about how to actually manage and do their job, so that they could put a little like couple letters behind their name and stuff like that. I was sorely mistaken.
Yeah, you were.
But I'm gonna keep referring to this as 6 Sigma because I think that has better alliterative properties.
You probably should, and we should also mention that since this is Listener Appreciation Month here in the month of February, we want to give a quick shout out to Roy Gordon for bringing G.I. Joe Sigma 6 or 6 Sigma to our attention. And we'll let you know if we're actually
What are you
thanking
doing to us, Roy?
Yeah, we don't know yet. We'll find out.
What are you actually doing to us, Roy?
Do you hate us that much? We're about to find out. Sean, you want to give the listeners some history on 6 Sigma, Sigma 6?
So G.I. Joe Sigma 6 is a mid-2000s line of military-themed action figures and toys produced by Hasbro, reimagining the characters from the 1980s toy line G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. The new series offered Hasbro the chance to streamline the story and characters, stripping away old continuity and rebooting the franchise with younger versions of the cast rendered in the popular anime style. The 26-episode animated series produced by the Japanese animation studio Gonzo did not finish airing all of its episodes in the US. Guys, that means that there are bootleg Japanese versions of this show that nobody's ever going to watch.
Or at least Canadian ones, because I feel like all 26 episodes ran in Canada. So just get the northern border, head up to the North Pole. Is that still Canada? I don't even know.
No, it's not, but still. Apologize to all of our Canadian listeners.
Just on my behalf. I'm coming up there soon anyway. We're all going to join you very, very soon. Just please don't build a wall yet. We're coming. All right, so you want to know what the show is actually about? Because I still do, and I've already watched it.
Yeah. After watching this, I would love to know what the point is, because I think that my major question for a majority of this that I will continually challenge you on is just why?
Yeah, it's a good question. My only answer, and this is a spoiler, so if you don't want to know how the first episode kind of ends, I feel like the only purpose is for G.I. Joe to become terrorists within the first episode. Just straight off the grid, no like oversight or anything. Domestic terrorists at this point. But
G.I. Waterboard.
It's coming back. Anyway, so G.I. Joe Sigma 6, apparently it's a continuation of 2 direct-to-video G.I. Joe CGI movies. The first being G.I. Joe Spy Troops, the second being G.I. Joe Valor vs. Venom, both films produced by Real FX Studios. Several references are made to events from Valor vs. Venom, such as Cobra Commander being captured and in prison, Overkill recovering from his injuries, and here's a good one, General Hawk suffering a change in his DNA. Snake Eyes also continues to have Kamakura and Jinx as his apprentices. So it seems like this is a continuation, not from the original series that we grew up with, but from an earlier reboot that was in these 2 direct-to-video, home movie G.I. Joe CGI movies. Long story short, none of this worked out well for Hasbro. The toys did not do well. They were pretty much canceled. I think they were a different...
Oh, no, you mean they went Hasbroke because of this?
They're doing just fine, believe me. But as far as G.I. Joe Sigma 6, they probably should have gone with like a business setting. Just like Duke in a business suit. Just reading from a PowerPoint presentation for 26
Giving
episodes.
briefings at the Pentagon?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, if we go to the next slide... and it just shows like an awesome action photo of like him in a battle, and he's like, the memories. And then it would like zoom in on that PowerPoint slide and the battle that was ensuing. That'd be a fun transition.
Why are you giving them your best ideas?
This is just an off the cuff idea, guys.
Idea.
I've got a lot more ideas if you want to pay for them, Hasbro.
That's a good way to do it.
Let's collaborate. And make this happen.
Let's has it out. God, damn it.
Awful. Fuck, that doesn't work.
No.
So,
I would love it though if there was a show, joking about this Sigma 6 or Six Sigma stuff. If there was a show where just
you can't figure it out now.
No,
what
I'm
is
so
it?
confused. If there was a show that like as you watched it, you gained like ranks, like you gained points, you would be so much more addicted to that show than any other just normal show. It's like, buy our toys, but also if you don't watch this week and get like a secret code or like learn a super special whatever, or take with today's technology, take a picture of this QR code or whatever, sample this song, then you don't get the points and you don't get to climb the ranks for that. I'm amazed. I would be amazed if that did not already exist, and I would not be amazed if that comes out in the next couple of years. $1 million
That's kind of
idea.
interesting.
Yeah.
Hold on. Why are you giving Hasbro all of your $1 million ideas?
Shit.
Dave.
Cut the recording. Let's just start this over.
You gotta pull your punches, buddy. Like, we're in the ring and we're duking it out.
Speaking of Duke.
Duking it out.
Speaking of Duke.
There you go.
Hey, let's get into this theme song because it's not good, and it's not like the other. It's not like the G.I. Joe theme songs you know and love, right?
Oh man, I'm gonna contend even before we jump into the theme song, and we have had an opportunity to kind of discuss this show a little bit prior to this. This show to me would have been fine, and I think I would have enjoyed it if we just didn't call it G.I. Joe.
Yeah, if it was just a generic action show, it probably would have been okay.
Right. If it was just called Sigma 6, or Battle Team Sigma 6.
Or like Action
just
Men and Two Fine Ladies, fine.
Yeah, right. I would have been cool with that. Like anything else this could have been, but when you name something, G.I. Joe, it comes with, I know, I'm doing it just as like an old grumpy man. I'm just like, when you name something and it's G.I. Joe, it comes with a whole set of stigmas from the 80s.
G.I. Joe Stigma 6?
Stigmata 6?
Ugh, it's a whole different show.
Because that's only 5 wounds. The 6th wound is like a surprise.
Where's it going to be?
So,
nobody knows.
I don't know. Nobody knows. So I really think that like when you do something like this, like I understand this, and I know that this was on the heels of those 2 animated like direct to DVD movies that they had, and it's sort of a continuation. But I think at the same time, it's challenging because to launch an entire series, you have a whole series of expectations, and one of those big expectations that you have is regarding the theme song, like. That like G.I. Joe was there, G.I. Joe. Like I can't get that out of my head ever. It's impossible to get rid of. And so you kind of do yourself a disservice, by calling your show G.I. Joe, but then by not even acknowledging something that is so well known and is so like well loved as that classic theme song. And you had an intro and an outro, and you could have done it at any point in time during any interstitial or battle scene during the show when there's too much chaotic shit to go on to really include any dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of like variation on that theme would have been fine. Instead, we get some like bizarro. Now, this does fit with like the anime style. It actually reminded me a lot of like the Yu-Gi-Oh style of the theme song, the introduction. They even had like some of the similar beats where like the music kind of drops out and then they try to build it back up to this like dramatic thing. It just doesn't work. It's so weird in this.
It's like, did they, again, we've joked about this before, like, did they hire the band Yellow Card to try to put together some type of like a pop punk type of an intro for this to get people excited about it? Because I liked Ocean Avenue, guys, but that's it. I didn't really like.
That's about it. I
don't
didn't
like
really
anything.
like G.I. Joe Sigma 6 by Yellow Card.
Oh, by Yellow Card.
I will say that what I loved, ironically, was them flashing the word "Stop Cobra" roughly 1,000
Right.
times until it was like burned into my retinas, and I can never not stop Cobra now.
Okay.
Do you really need
So
to?
we,
do you really need to do that? Like, I think we get it.
No, you don't.
I think we
like,
get it.
We get
Yeah.
it. The ultimate thing for this is that it just felt like this intro was just so scatterbrained.
Yeah.
And it felt like at no point in time did I mean, I don't know about you, but I just felt like the music and sort of the visuals didn't really ever align.
No, it was just a complete mess. The one thing that was good was
Right.
it was a bit of a roll call, but it was so frenetic and scattered and kind of like mumblecore that you couldn't even really understand most of their names. Like, you'd kind of get snippets of it, but then by the time you like, your brain interpreted whatever he just said, and you were like, oh, he said heavy duty, like they're on to the next thing or the next two things. So it was like,
And I had
good try, but not quite.
And I had to watch this theme song 3 or 4
Yeah.
times to be able to even pick up some of the words. And even at certain points, I couldn't figure it out. Now, the moment that you're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, that where they kind of like drop the beat
Yeah.
out of this theme song was when they are introducing, I think it was Tunnel Rat. But what they do is that they're just like, and of course there's Tunnel Rat. And then the voice gets distorted.
Yeah.
And they add, like, again, it's that like weird crappy robot voice
Yeah.
where it's like, like, what the fuck
They just loved playing with that on their little soundboard. That was like the thing to do in the mid 2000s, I guess.
Knock it the fuck off, because it made it unintelligible. They had to have an explosion then so that they could ramp up the spastic energy that was in this. And I'm sitting there just like, what the actual fuck is happening? And then we have this entire roll call, as Dave mentioned, which is so
It's
like
half-assed.
Dick Tracy, like marble mouthed the entire Duke Scarlet, just the entire time. And then we get to these villains, and they don't say a single word about it's just them with their arms crossed. Like, their body language was almost communicating to me, we don't want to be in this intro either.
We are
and I was like,
contractually
I get
obligated
it.
to be here, but we
Get it.
We do not want to be part of this. I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't
Most of
blame
them don't
either.
show up in this episode. You've only got 2 named villains that show up. The rest of them are fucking robots.
Yeah. And so, like, these people are kind of like they're coming into the forefront, and they're just quickly fading into the background, and you're just like, oh, all right. My other complaint was that so much of this theme song, and I will say this, I have to ask this question, Dave. Did you have a favorite G.I. Joe from the 80s toy line and cartoon?
Man, the 80s. I mean, I always loved Sergeant Slaughter just because that name, and also because he was
That is a great one.
WWE wrestler. Well, WWF wrestler
Right.
at the time.
Right.
And honestly, most of my favorites were from the toys and not the cartoon. But I'd have to go Sergeant Slaughter. Amazing.
Okay.
And then probably Roadblock after that. Yeah.
So I think that those are 2 great entries, but I feel like for me growing up, my favorite G.I. Joe character was the most mysterious character out of
Lady
the entire
J.
lot. Lady J, damn it. No, it was Snake Eyes, of course, mainly because Snake Eyes was cool. He was the only guy that really didn't use guns. He didn't say anything, and he walked around with like katana blades all the time, and you're just like, this seems like a brooding person that like
I want to get to know.
Because I really feel that if I got to know him, I could change him and shape him into something that I think would be good for our relation. No, of course not. This dude was moody as fuck. All right. And for a toy line and a cartoon line where everybody is blowing up and everybody's getting shot out nonstop with like the pew 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 lasers all the time, this was one dude that was like, you know what? I'm gonna do like a triple backflip off of a tank, and then I'm gonna run into gunfire. And you're just like,
never seen me
you're
coming.
a cool dude.
Yeah. I'd want to
cool
hang out with
dude.
him just so I don't get knifed in the back in the darkness, because if I'm on his good side, then maybe he won't do that.
Sure.
Or maybe he still will.
So going back to this theme song, this intro cuts in between Snake Eyes having sword battles all the time, like fighting Storm Shadow. All right. Which Storm Shadow is like, you know, his talkative, like, get the hell out of my face kind of a brother of a ninja. All right. So while Storm Shadow has that quiet, secretive look. Storm Shadow is just like, I'm going to give you all the exposition. You're like, just knock it off. Don't do it. So it's cutting between these cool battles of them clashing swords and then just random mechs just shooting missiles and guns at each other. And at some point I was just like, you know what? I know that you can upgrade this for a new generation, you know? But and I know that for all of these things, like, you have to include, like, that's the reason that we have bats. That's the reason that we have bats.
We'll talk about them in a second, what bats are.
Right.
Yeah.
And so bats have been a core of G.I. Joe since the 80s, because you can't just kill Zartan, and you can't just kill all the other characters, big name bad characters that they have there in the show. You have to just destroy something that's simple.
Well, but you used to have
stormtroopers in movies.
Exactly.
Like,
but you used to have, didn't they used to have just like faceless combat soldiers? Because they had them in here, but in the first episode, it's just the bats, the battle android troops or whatever they call. What are they here?
Right.
Battle
so they had
trooper.
nameless.
Yeah.
So they had, you know, nameless Cobra soldiers and stuff like that for a majority of it. But the bats were the thing that, like, you could blow them up. Like, you could destroy the shit out of them.
And not feel bad about it, because it's not a living person. You're totally fine.
And there's no blood.
No, just circuitry and metal, shrapnel flying everywhere. Great stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, sponsors were just like, yeah, we'll continue to give you money if you're going to blow up robotic stuff, but you shoot a human being, like in a real war, waving that finger.
That's right.
But, like, it's just incredible how quickly it goes between something that I want to watch, which was cool, to something that seems so crazy and off-putting. And I thought about this in my brain. Now, I don't know if you saw this, the Avengers movie that they had that was Avengers Confidential. It was Black Widow and Punisher.
I don't think so, no.
And so this was, I think, I watched it on Netflix.
Oh, the animated
it might still
one.
be available.
Yeah.
And so, but it's done in an anime style, you know, where it sort of almost has what feels like those Dragon Ball Z fights, but it's with Avengers characters, and it was so much fun to watch, and it was a crazy extension of that cinematic universe, and it was something, but it did, like, but they still honored and respected everything that was there. You just saw crazy detail as Punisher is, like, shooting up a room full of people, or Black Widow is, like, going crazy and, again, killing a room full of people. And I was like, this is so much fun. This is what I want to see these characters do. I feel like this is being respectful to some source material. In this case, it just felt like they were just like, you know what, we're going to throw Snake Eyes in there because people like swords, blah, 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 blah. And then we're just going to throw in a shit ton of mechs because it's the mid-2000s and everybody loves robots.
Well, speaking of robots actually show up
it's
at
the sequel to Everybody Loves Raymond.
Everybody Loves Robots.
Everybody Loves Robots.
Everybody Loves Robots, that animated movie from like 2002 that nobody remembers except for me, apparently.
No batteries included.
Batteries not included. I love that movie.
Batteries not included.
They were alien robots. Anyway, it's robots that show up in the beginning of this particular episode. So we watched the first episode of this series called Invasion, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they called it Invasion. I still can't figure out who's invading what or where. The heroes pretty much invade the space. I don't really know why it's called Invasion. But anyway, moving on from that. It opens up with
this should have been
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, this should have just been called Destro and Baroness play a poor game of chess
Yeah,
together.
play vertical hollow chess. It's quickly and terribly. But before we get to that, so it opens up with essentially the opening scene from Empire Strikes Back, right? Was that not what they were doing?
It was pretty much what they were doing.
20 years after the fact. So it opens with this like camera in the snow, like just scanning the perimeter, and then it's just like, oh shit, there's a shit ton of Cobra robots out there, and like a lot, like an army. But that doesn't really make sense of why it would be called Invasion, because they are not taking this over necessarily. This is just the inciting incident to get the G.I. Joes up to the base.
Right.
And that's pretty much it. And then we dive into like that this crazy exposition where if you missed it in the theme song, which you did because you couldn't understand what they were saying, now Duke is going to tell you everybody on his team and what they are supposed to be doing. So I do like their introduction though. I love that they like just come blasting over the like frozen landscape of the North Pole in these like snow tanks, which are called ice sabers. They're like heavily armed, heavily armored, just snow tanks basically, and they're badass. So I mean, that's kind of cool. Yeah. I was into it.
We've talked about this in Wild Thornberrys. What's fucking cooler than sweet snowmobiles?
Love it.
Nothing. Literally
nothing.
I mean, unless you have like some type of like a foreign guy who's like explaining to you all about the snowmobiles and trying to like get you to ride them, as we saw on the wild thornberries.
Oh, hello. My name is
hello.
Marco. Do you have a supply?
Exactly. Jesus.
He's a Marco. Marco doesn't show up. We get Duke instead, who's totally fine.
Nah,
he's whatever. Yeah. We should briefly talk about the appearance of each of these goons as we go through them, I think. Yeah.
But before we get into the appearance of these characters, can we mention that this starts with a pun?
Every bit of dialogue is like, I couldn't even keep track of it. I gave up after a while because what was this one?
It's and I really feel that this was like one of those moments that I was waiting for David Caruso to show up and pull off his glasses and just go,
might as well.
And I'm like, CSI Miami, what are you doing? This you get a moment of Duke who just goes, we're a North Pole mission. It's gonna get hot.
I have a feeling this North Pole mission is gonna get hot. Or is gonna heat up. Like, fuck you. God, this is your first line. You could do so much better. I wrote down a few more later on. We'll get to them as we go. Most of them I couldn't even like keep track of, because another thing that becomes very apparent is they try to do this weird like tech speak where they just throw a lot of bullshit terms at you and expect you to be confused with your childlike mind and be like, we're so smart, we're talking about computers. But it's just garbage. Just absolute garbage. All right, so here we get the roll call. So what do you think of Duke compared to like his character from the 80s series visually?
I mean, Duke is a very masculine figure. Like, he a lot of leadership qualities. He's a real badass, I feel like in this case, we have like a Duke that sort of upholds a lot of those same kind of valiant, badass principles.
Sure. Yeah, and I think he's fine. I mean, it's your kind of typical anime style. He kind of looks like Captain America. So he's blonde, blonde hair, blue-eyed, square jaw, broad shoulders, blah, blah, blah. Typical kind of like archetypal hero. And then, of course, you've got the female hero. So you've got Scarlet, his second in command, who... Was there a Scarlet in the original series?
Yes.
But that was different from Lady J.
Yes.
Why can't I remember Scarlet for some reason? I remember her from like the live action movies, which were terrible.
I mean, I'll never forget her. She was because she was the female redhead that was in there.
Yeah, but then who am I thinking
as
of?
another redhead, I always... I don't know.
I don't know who the heck Lady J was. I'm just making stuff up. Was she a bad villain, maybe?
No.
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to find that out. I'm sure you people are screaming at your computers right now. So we had Scarlet, but even Scarlet's style is like, she's basically like 16. She looks like she's a little kid.
Yeah, she looks way too young for this.
As a second in command.
And I mean, like, you think about all of our armed services, and you think about all the specialized units. Like with the Army, we have the Rangers. With the Marines, we have the SEALs. You think about each individual specialized area. They are always asserting the G.I. Joe squad is like that plus additional
like
training.
The elite of the elite.
Right.
She's not been on this earth long enough to receive that much training.
Right.
But she's fine. I mean, whatever. They're both driving their ice sabers and tearing ass across North Pole. Totally fine. But then Duke just dumps the exposition on us. He tells us who each of his people are on his team, what their specialty is, and where they are currently located. He's just dumping this out in the middle of nowhere. So one of the first ones we come across is Snake Eyes.
Right.
So Snake Eyes and his recon patrol are just like tearing through all these robots and basically just like slicing them up as they run. Do you remember his apprentices? Which I didn't know about, but go ahead.
Which I was surprised, because I was just like, how do you essentially apprentice somebody when you really don't talk or speak or give them any actual like I guess it just comes to me in my personal preference. Like, I wouldn't apprentice under somebody who couldn't like give me their expectations. I mean, maybe he writes them like messages in a bottle and just like throws, and they just slash them into pieces. Yeah. But yeah, we've got Jinx, who is a female ninja, and what was it? It's Kamakura.
Yep.
Who are
Kamakura
the
Chameleon was his full name.
Oh no. I heard Common Core
Principles.
Common
is his other apprentice.
That's a big part of Six Sigma training, is learning those Common Core principles.
I really feel like this was like a business-oriented cartoon that they were just like, oh shit, this is supposed to be G.I. Joe. Sigma 6.
Well,
flip it.
Well, speaking of all these things regarding business, you wouldn't have a business unless, of course, you had a supply chain.
That's true. Which is what happens next.
Which is one of our next characters
with
that
long
we have.
range, who's just a dude in like a tank thing, reading a magazine.
Who could not give two fucking shits about this. They're just like, yeah, if we run into problems, we've got long range. And he's reading some
He's
like
just reclined.
vacation magazine,
Yeah.
not giving a
Sipping
fuck.
a Mai Tai, the warmth, doesn't even care.
How
And they
would
don't
you-
even say like what he does. They're just like, here's a guy that's in between us and the other guys. Like he's just literally a middle. Holy shit, he's the middleman. This is a business
Okay.
cartoon. This is a business cartoon.
Business cartoon.
And now
I'm
we
fine with
get
this.
to some diversity for the office
Right.
because it's mandated. Go for it.
God,
I'm gonna
so
make
we,
you take it.
No, we have heavy duty.
Heavy duty.
We have heavy duty. I think he's the lone person of color
Absolutely.
for this entire team.
Or unless you're counting Destro, who's silver faced. But other than that, he's a black guy. He's basically like what Roadblock kind of was for the original series. I guess there was probably a heavy duty also, but this is their large, strong black man who is quote unquote strong as an elephant, but also has some other traits of elephants as well. What is his other trait besides strength?
Like he gets freaked out by like animals?
Yeah,
Like
just
he gets
mice.
freaked out by like mice?
Scared of mice.
Mice. He gets scared of mice.
Weird thing to include, Japan. You're real weird.
Yeah. Very, very bizarre. But
Very strange.
he's also there with his compatriot Tunnel Rat.
Ugh.
And no, we're not talking about a character from the video game Overwatch. We're talking about an explosives expert who people are just like, he's weird because he eats bugs. Dude, look, I don't know. Maybe those bugs are better than some of these G.I. Joe military rations.
Yeah.
Probably.
Look, I'll tell you what, in the post-apocalypse, you're going to want to talk to Tunnel Rat because he's going to have the only nutrition going. Bugs are...
Ooh, making up this worm soup.
God, that sounds awful.
That sounds
Worm
terrible.
soup.
God
Guess I'll go eat
damn.
worm soup. Yikes.
Ugh.
But yeah, at first I thought he was
But,
just
like-
eating trash because he just like grabs something from the ground and throws it in his mouth. And I was like, is he eating hot trash?
It's just bugs. Just bugs. He's just eating
Bugs
bugs.
and worms and all kinds of stuff. So he's explosives expert and infiltration expert. We don't get to see
guess.
any of that in this episode. We basically just get to see him
Yeah.
fuck up a lot and just be really weird and irritating. But now we
Yep.
know who he is and what he does. So who's next?
Perfect. The next we have is high tech. Because their entire command center used to have a lot of people that was in it, but no longer. But high tech basically fills the shoes of like several intelligence agents that they would have that would be reporting all the time. And they're like, he's got a huge brain, and we're glad he's on our side. As this dude stands up in like a Harry Potter invisibility cloak.
Yeah, he's wearing
and
the
I'm like,
cloak of invisibility.
What the fuck is this?
And they never used it. There was no reason for him
they
to
never
have
used
that.
anything. It was just to show that like he's smart and he can have an invisibility cloak anytime he wants.
He doesn't
Just
even
like,
need to
man.
use it. He's got so many, he can just leave them laying around the base in Arizona.
But like the weirdest thing is that like they're showing his hands and his hands look synthetic.
Yeah.
His hand, like along like his forearm, he's got like a weird. It looks like it's something that's like more than a glove. He's got
Like
something that
built-in
looks like
synthetic
a
stuff. Yeah.
like
Cybernetics.
it's sort of like Ghost in the Shell like components on his body, And then he also has like things that are over top of his ears that you don't know if they're like brain or
Like a
like
Lobot.
audio implants. Yeah, exactly. He looked identical to Lobot in Star Wars, and so you're like on Sky City, and so you're looking at all this stuff, and you're just like you can tell almost immediately. You're just like, these don't feel like original ideas. These just feel like they're grifting other shit from like popular properties or things that were successful, and then just chopping them up and putting them into this, and then not doing anything with them.
No, nothing at all. I feel like somebody really liked Harry Potter and Star Wars and just kind of threw random shit in with G.I. Joe and business. And we're like, nailed it. We got it, guys. Kids are going to love this shit.
It's like it's as if somebody was like, how many fandoms can we shove into a G.I. Joe cartoon and piss off people who like G.I. Joe, but then also get other fandoms excited? Like when they had Doctor Who that showed up at that one scene, I was like, this doesn't seem canon.
No, he
And,
just
you know,
kind of popped in and was just like, nope, and then popped back out.
The brothers from Supernatural showed up at some
Yeah,
point
they
in
drove
time,
up in
and I was
Baby.
like, this
Yeah.
seems very, very
That
bizarre.
was pretty weird.
So just a lot of stuff that was just kind of shoehorned into this, but then never taken advantage of.
No, that was the thing. Like for all the stuff that they set up, at least in this episode, I know there's 25 more episodes unless you live in the United States. We didn't get to see any of that really play out. There was a lot of fun action and stuff, but none of the things that they introduced really came into play. And we'll talk about that in a second. Now we like smash cut to the villains, apparently. So we go like right from roll call of the heroes to like Destro and Baroness just playing chess and addressing each other by name. Just so we know who they were.
For like 2 seconds, I honestly thought that they were playing like the most tech elite version of Battleship.
I thought they were playing Battleship because it was on a vertical grid. No, they're just playing like vertical chess.
Vertical chess. Oh, but I'll tell you what, I've never watched a more boring game of chess in my life.
Yeah, Destro just destroys Baroness, and she's just like, all right, just get your shit together. We got an operation to pull off. So apparently Destro wants a quote-unquote truly challenging opponent, and he doesn't really do much for the rest of this episode, but Baroness has the squad of robots execute, quote-unquote, again, Operation Wasteland, so they can get revenge.
She goes, execute Operation Wasteland.
Now. She's like, I had to lose this game of chess real quick, and now we can continue with our plans for revenge. For locking up Cobra Commander. It's pretty stupid. But at this point, now the robots attack. So, right? So you've got to remember that you've got Tunnel Rat and Heavy Duty back at where are we? Where are we?
So they mentioned that they are at an Amazon supply depot hold on, Dave, top priority. Duke mentions this in the roll call. This Amazon supply depot, because they're in the North Pole, top priority. So, again, I go back to my original question at the beginning of the episode. Why? Why is this a top
now that
priority?
You said that, I think it's all part of the supply chain, right? So in business, you need to have all your supply chain secure.
Supply and demand.
I don't think they were actually in the Amazon. I think they were at an Amazon warehouse. So they were acting as part of the supply chain to make sure that those orders were fulfilled. That makes much more sense at this point.
It does make more sense, but did you find it weird that Heavy Duty and Tunnel Rat then did a demo of the Salesforce software that they use for supply chain management?
Yeah, they take like 5 minutes in the middle of this cartoon to just demo that. I don't know. It was really strange.
It's real weird.
It's real weird right there. But they get interrupted and they get attacked by these bats, the whatever android troopers. What the hell was the B?
Oh, right.
Battle Android Trooper, obviously.
Battle Android Trooper.
Why would you name your droids bats? I don't get it, but it doesn't matter.
Well, we have, as we mentioned, we've got our ninjas that are running recon up ahead, and they run into
hold on
Shadow
before we get there. Before we get
right?
there, so you've got 3 different locations, right? So you've got the North Pole, which is where Duke Scarlet, Snake Eyes, and his apprentices are. You've got the Amazon warehouse, who cares where, Hoboken, New Jersey, which is where Heavy Duty and Tunnel Rat are, securing the supplies. Then you've got High Tech back in the Arizona HQ, just sitting around with his weird invisibility cloak, probably watching porn, not doing much else. So you've got these 3 different locations. Go ahead.
It just occurred to me that the Amazon supply depot could just be Amazon.com.
That's exactly what I said, the Amazon warehouse.
Brick and mortar. Yeah. Yes. I love it.
Yeah, they got to keep the supplies going. Because I get shit from them every day. They need to keep those supplies going. Yeah, so you've got three different directions. Go ahead and take North Pole with the ninjas here. What are they up to?
Sure. So we stumble into Storm Shadow along with the Ninja Bats. And so we have a quick battle that's between all of them where we have a confrontation between Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. They clash for like 2 seconds. We see the 2 apprentices watch Snake Eyes get kicked off of a cliff, which was kind of a cool thing because it's one of those moments where you see the apprentices just go, like they audibly go, they gasp. You get like a and he sort of does this elegant swan dive, turns around, shoots a grappling hook, and it's like an inch from Storm Shadow's face.
Yeah, and he just stares it down though, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah, which is pretty badass. So it drops to the ground, grabs the edge of the cliff, and he does a superhero landing.
Yeah, he didn't really even ever slow down or need that grappling hook at all. He just dove off a cliff and landed perfectly without breaking his body.
There are so many times watching this cartoon where I was like, the torque and the force involved. And the gravity, the physics involved in this would have ripped legs or arms off, as we'll talk about later in this episode. Like there are things that would have just destroyed a human body. Regardless of whatever your muscle mass is, you can't prepare for getting kicked off of a cliff
These are the
and
elite
then
of
superhero
the elite.
landing. I mean, I guess, but I mean, like, it doesn't make sense to me in those moments where I'm just like, oh, I'm now I'm now nervous.
Yes.
Like,
All right, can we pop back to the Amazon warehouse real quick?
yeah, let's get
So
back in.
there's something that happens here, but it only happens total maybe like 2-3 minutes of the entire episode, right? So this is where Heavy Duty and Tunnel Rat are loading supplies or whatever the fuck, and they get attacked.
Top priority,
Top
Dave.
men, and they get
Top
attacked
priority.
by a wave upon wave of these bats, robot soldiers. But
Right.
all their supplies and weapons are outside of the base. They get trapped inside of the base. So now it's up to Heavy Duty and Tunnel Rat to like improvise, come up with some stuff, and try to get their way out. So it doesn't really look like it uses any of their particular skills. They just use a frying pan, a literal frying pan, and bash their way through this crowd, and just like they just hide somewhere until Tunnel Rat just pulls out a bunch of grenades and blows up the
blows up
robots.
their top priority,
They blew up
Dave.
the robots,
their
but they also
top
blow up
priority.
their supplies and the base. So they bring everything down around them, and then they what? They literally crawl out from under the rubble. They have like this little comedic moment, and then that's it. We never see him again.
Right. We see Tunnel Rat eat another worm.
He eats a worm, and that's
and
it.
we have heavy make the comment. He's just like, man, he's like, if we could harness your stomach's power and how hungry you get all the time, it'd be the ultimate weapon against Cobra.
The end.
And you're just like,
smash cut back to the North Pole.
I could seriously not give two fucking
No,
shits.
there was no reason to have them there other than to introduce their characters and set up some weird comic relief that did nothing for the entire episode. So now we go back to the North Pole. We can kind of hang out there for the rest of this episode. So what are Duke and Scarlet up to now? Yeah.
So this is a good point to say that we have 3 locations. So we're down to 2 locations right now. And one of them we are going to just touch on at the end and then fuck it. Like, and that's it. That's it. So after all this stuff with the ninja bats, we have Scarlet and Duke kind of come to the rescue at the very end of that. They saved them, so they're now on their way towards where I guess they believe that this attack has happened, like where all the prop right. And there in the middle of the North Pole is a huge fucking Cobra castle, like enormous. It's an enormous castle.
The scale of the things, just the things in general in this cartoon are just bonkers. We'll talk about a number of things that make zero sense coming up here in a little bit. Things just keep getting bigger. Like the Snowcats were cool, and then Long Range's vehicle, who we'll talk about in a second, is bigger, but that's cool. And then there's another thing.
Talk about the Rhino.
Rhino.
Woo! Talk about the Rhino. Woo!
All right, so what's up with this castle?
So this castle just has tons and tons and tons of these bat soldiers, and it just deploys all of this stuff.
Well, just like blow it up, though, right? Can't they just like shoot it? They got all these weapons. Can't they just blow it up from outside?
No. You would think so, but there's a force field.
Force field. Damn it! Like force fields and jetpacks are like the bread and butter of cartoons.
Well, like the interesting, I know, but who doesn't love those? It's like I mean, you add a snowmobile in there, you got yourself a pretty fun time. But we've got all this battle that's going on, and we've got this moment where Scarlet, the snowcat that she's in, it gets hit, it gets knocked over, it flips,
and
now,
she dies, which was a real surprise. Breaks her neck.
But like it's really interesting because this is a moment where we sort of have Duke, who in the roll call makes a comment saying that like, I'm glad that Scarlet is my number 2. She's somebody I can really rely on, you know? And you have a team of very individualized soldiers that have very uniquely special skill sets, all right? In addition to, them being like, secret agents and soldiers and tactical force to be reckoned with. Duke says that he can rely on these other people, and he feels comfortable with all of this. But he spends a majority of his time in a battle worrying about how other people are doing.
Yeah, we're just doing stuff on his own and not really asking for any like backup. He's just like, I'm going to do this and you fucks can figure it out.
For any assistance or support. And so like in all these things, like, he's just like, I rely on my team, and like teamwork's what we need to do. And like, team, are you with me? And every step of the way, he's just like, you okay? Cool, I'm glad you're okay. I'm about to go off and do my own badass thing now. Woo! Watch me go! And it's just, it's incredible because, we've talked about this before when it comes to battles. And I think maybe sometimes this is this is an unfair judgment or assessment that I continue to make. When we see people go into these giant battle scenes, you really see how, I guess, their team structure breaks down immediately.
Yeah, on either side, either the heroes or the villains. Yeah.
Right. And you think to yourself, like, these are elite soldiers. You would think that they would have some kind of a plan, that they would have some way to kind of attack, assess, and address this problem. And like their problem is, as Dave has mentioned, is just to bring in bigger and larger and more destructive things to blow up a huge castle.
Look, I will say though that like this next sequence, the way that they actually kind of run through all this stuff was entertaining. It makes very little sense, but it was super entertaining because it was just like, what are they going to do next? Like, this is kind of nuts. So like they bring in, Long Range comes in, they call him in. So he comes in and helps clear a lot of the bats and stuff out of the sky. And they help everybody kind of like reconvenes in this giant tank, the Rhino. So this was kind of cool because Scarlet gets to take off in the Rhino chopper, right? So there's this chopper that's held within the tank. So it's vehicles within vehicles. That's not the only thing that's in there. So she goes in a chopper. The chopper flies up and out of the tank. So she's now got like air supremacy. She can take care of that. Duke, meanwhile, is in this fucking like mobile like mecha suit on the back of this tank, just firing at stuff as he goes and just kind of like strapped in. But then, like Sean mentioned, they can't get through this force field and they need to get in there for some reason. They don't really ever explain why or what they're trying to do. They just need to get in there and shoot shit up.
Like you see in these instances, you see it coming from a mile away. You're just like, oh, they're walking into a trap.
100%. And like, I mean, like we've watched Destro and Baroness, who are basically both just like, it's a great trap I've set for the Joes. It's like, okay, I guess.
Right. And you would think that for the number of times that they have fought and that they've dealt with Cobra, you would think that they would know that they are 100% walking into a trap.
Well, they're not just walking in. They are driving as fast as they can at breakneck speed.
Tokyo drifting.
They're Tokyo drifting, and they are launching a mobile suit under a closing castle door just in the nick of time. So it's like you were saying, they're cramming like Gundam Wing, Tokyo Drift, all kinds of shit. He-Man, whatever you want to throw in there, it's all comes together in like that scene. So now Duke is inside of this castle
in Castle
Grayskull. He's ready to punch Skeletor in his face with a mecha suit, which is great. And then shit just goes bananas from here. Like I couldn't even like keep track of what was happening. Because Duke gets in like fights with robots and stuff, but then there's like this. But
he's fighting close quarters and he's shooting missiles.
He was shooting missiles from like 2 feet away. That's pretty badass. That's confidence in your machinery.
Yeah,
you shoot a missile from 2 feet away.
He's in a mobile suit Gundam that sort of looks like Ripley's loader from Aliens.
He screamed, "Get away from her, you bitch!" But there was nobody there. He wasn't talking to anyone. They were all robots. And then the inside of the castle starts to kind of like fracture. There's like explosions and like crazy steam that vents up out of nowhere. And I was wondering, like, is this like a volcano? Is it an earthquake thing? Is it just like a trap they've set that's full of explosions? They're going to bring the castle down on them. What were you thinking at this point before you saw what was actually going on?
Oh, I called it. I knew exactly what it was right away. Yeah, I was watching this and I out loud I just went, yeah, it's this.
Holy
and then
shit.
2 seconds later when it happened, I just went, fucking
pat yourself on the back.
Like,
no, I had no clue. I thought it was like
I was so frustrated that it was right. So don't pat me on the don't encourage my bullshit.
So if you're wondering out there what is happening, apparently the castle is just kind of a front for a giant rocket. So like the main tower of the castle, which is enormous, is just a giant rocket.
But why?
I don't know.
But why?
I don't know.
But
this
why?
is what I couldn't figure out because they were like, my brain actually like fried and short-circuited at this point because I was like, okay, he's in a rocket and now Duke's in it, but everybody else is outside, but it's climbing too high. But then they got to talk to High Tech, and then he's going to do something, and then it's got to explode, but it can't explode because Duke's in there. So what are they going to?
You got to run that searchware. Oh my God. You got to run that high tech searchware.
All right. So first of all, one line from Baroness, who's just sitting somewhere watching this, and she has another great one-liner where she goes, "So far, the attack is a blazing success." They cut to her just for that line. Like, I could have saved you guys $10,000 in animation by just cutting that scene.
Could have been ADR. Like, we didn't need to.
No, nothing. You didn't need it at all. So now Duke is trapped in his mobile suit in this rocket launching into space. Walk me through some of this, because apparently the chopper cannot climb high enough to do anything about it. the long range and everything else on the ground. They can't do anything other than keep the bats kind of at bay. What's the deal with this rocket?
So the deal with this rocket is that it's shooting into orbit with Duke on it.
Right.
The Baroness and Destro have escaped, so it's not a problem for them. They don't care. Yeah. So they lured Duke onto this rocket to send him into orbit, which again would kill him.
Okay, so
I don't understand.
You spent all your Cobra bucks on making a giant castle in the Arctic.
It's like a Bitcoin, right? Cobra bucks are like
Cobra
a Bitcoin,
bucks are
right?
like worth like
Got it.
0.1 Bitcoin, I think. You spent all your Cobra bucks. You build a giant castle in the Arctic with a force field that also is actually just masking a giant rocket to trap one G.I. Joe and not even kill him, but just gently send him into space where he can slowly die in orbit.
But it makes sense.
And give the
Six
Joes
Sigma.
the chance to free him because he'll just slowly be orbiting the Earth.
But
it makes
sense. It makes sense because Dave, what it's telling you is that look, real estate requires upkeep. You need to liquidate assets as a part of Six Sigma. How else are you gonna be able to keep up your supply chain? Look, you've got a whole Amazon depot that's under fire. You got to liquidate in order to be able to show on your ledger, all right, that you're.
This is why I'm still a green belt. I just don't. This stuff just does not click for me. I don't get it.
You're gonna get up there, young Padawan.
Sean's got a double chocolate black belt, double stuffed fudge chocolate. Oh, sounds delicious.
Sounds really good.
It does sound good. Okay, so Duke's in a castle rocket for some reason. What's going on back in HQ?
So the problem back in HQ is that they are unable to open the gate that's in the rocket for Duke to be able to jump out of said rocket and get rescued. And
this sucker's climbing higher and higher, so he's got to get out of there sooner. He's going to have like no air to breathe.
Well, it's also going to explode. There's a timer that High Tech is able to figure out through some sequence of events where Duke plugs in
his gauntlet,
like a USB
his thing into he said the words gauntlet like 3 times.
I know.
It's just your glove, bro.
He plugs this in. It's able to give High Tech access to be able to see what's in there. He's running his searchware, which
there were so many pseudo techie terms here that I was just so frustrated with most of these.
Like Cobra security firewall and data hacking the hatch.
God damn it.
I mean, he may have just said like, guys, I'm really just trying to gleam the cube right now. And I've just been like, how many more 80s references are you gonna fuck?
Or he could have just been like, everybody shut the fuck up. Let me do my job real quick and I'll be done in like 3 seconds. If I have to explain every fake step that I'm doing, then this castle rocket is going to explode.
The best part is that Scarlet pops up on his comm and she's just like, if you don't do anything, he's going to die. He's like, yeah, I fucking know.
I put that together. I've got like a super brain. I think I figured that shit out. And now you've wasted 7 seconds.
I'm aware, Scarlet. And guess what? Your attitude is the reason that I have to go to HR on Monday morning.
Just because I was wearing this invisibility cloak while you were changing after practice wasn't my fault.
Well,
wait, what? Sorry. Hold on. What? Duke's in trouble. He's in a castle rocket.
Trouble.
It's about to explode.
Yeah.
Saved by the bell.
He gets up to the point where they reach like critical velocity and this thing's about to explode in like 5 seconds, but they're too high in the atmosphere.
But High Tech's got it, right? Like his searchware firewall, Cobra Bucks got it taken care of, right? It's not like the program's going to choke or anything.
The one line that I wrote here is he goes, guys, I'm trying to hyperwire the circuits, and I almost punched my laptop.
I wanted to just break it and throw it across the room. He's like typing a bunch of shit, and he's like, as long as my program doesn't choke, which isn't a thing I've ever heard anyone say, as long as my program doesn't choke, we should be fine. And then that little, I love that little X, the red circle with the X in it comes up, and it's like, Brink. He's like, no, what a time for my program to choke.
I mean, I will defend that. Like saying that a program's gonna choke is actually a legit. It's a thing.
Okay, fair enough. Then. How about I don't even have? Hold on. How about I don't even have the crunch time to hyperpatch blah 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 whatever he said.
Oh, to hyperwire the circuits. No, those are not real things. The only thing that actually was legitimate was the choke.
Interesting.
Like,
good to know.
That was.
I just hated that he was like, I sure
line.
hope my program doesn't choke. What if time for my program to choke?
What a time! That and then the Cobra security firewall.
So bad.
I was like, what? What vendor are they using? That's my brain immediately was just like, who they acquire? Who's Cobra dealing with? Who's their sales
Sean
rep?
is our high tech, and we appreciate him. So what is Duke to do now? He's in an exploding castle rocket bound for space. Scarlett's being a bitch. High tech has pretty much failed. What's he gonna do?
So they managed to get the door open.
Sure.
And everybody's just like,
why not?
Everybody's just like, they're like, you're too high. Like, you're really like, he's falling in orbit. Yeah. And if I've learned anything from watching like Apollo 13, like Armageddon, any movie, you're gonna burn up upon re-entry, and that's gonna suck. Yeah. But he is in a mecha suit,
totally fine.
And the one that he burst into this tower with, that now became a rocket, and he is jumping back out in this. He ejects from this. And just like the most recent Fast and the Furious.
Look, man, this was actually pretty cool. I was like, this is a cool sequence they pulled off here. It makes zero sense, but it was a lot of fun.
Oh, and trust me, like if at any point in time, like there was so much risk for failure in this, and obviously he's gonna make it, and Scarlett is doing like a total nosedive with her Rhino chopper.
Yeah, so like the cargo doors open in the back so he can dive into it. Yeah.
And he grabs this latch, and at the last possible second, Scarlett pulls up, and I'm just like, the physics alone would have ripped this human being's arm clean off.
Not even that,
body.
but like the chopper itself too wouldn't even have survived, because she was like, because High Tech's like, Scarlett, you got to pull up. She's like, nope, can't do it. Got to boost directly to the ground, and then I'll pull up. Which she does, but there are zero like aerodynamic functions on this chopper that make you think that this thing could actually pull it off. Like they don't even do it in like a convincing way. They basically plummet straight into the ground. There's like a snow cloud, and then they burst out of it. It's never even like a steep dive that she pulls out and rescues it. They just like skim the surface of the snow. But it was a badass sequence. I'll give them that.
It was good. It was good.
And then so like everybody's totally cool. No deadly crash. She almost takes the heads off of everybody that are on the ground watching this fiasco unfold, but everybody's fine. So we're done, right? Like there's nothing else crazy that happens? There's not like a crazy fissure that busts up through the ice or anything, right?
Well, I mean, there is.
Oh, shit, there is? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not like a giant, like, improbably sized submersible base for Cobra is going to just, like, break through the ice and just, like, peek their heads up and then just say, hey, and then drop below the ice again, is it? I mean, that would be weird.
Because he pokes his head out and he goes, this ends in a draw. And I was like, what was your objective? What were you trying to do? What was the point of this whole fucking thing?
Worst chess game ever.
This is like, if you're looking for a better chess player, Destro, learn how to play chess.
Literally just Google
first.
it. Like this is not how chess is played. This is the most expensive game of chess I've ever seen. You built you built a Arctic base that was a castle that was a rocket. You built
that was a SpaceX that you exploded.
Yeah, it's gone now. You can't use any of it.
Yeah.
You literally your rocket launch also destroyed the base that it was sitting on. You built a small country-sized submersible mobile base just to peek up through the ice, say your one line, and then descend back into the depths of the water.
Right.
They have so many Cobra bucks.
I'm actually just thinking about that. I'm really waiting for Destro to just be like, yes, State Farm. Correct. I would like to file a claim. And they're like, what? Yeah.
It's your third castle this month.
Yeah. You've blown up a lot of rockets in the name of nothing.
A lot of castle rockets are on your account. And I don't think we're going to be able to renew this policy.
Yeah. I'm going to have to call a manager for this one.
He's going to threaten to switch to Geico.
Yeah, right. Good luck.
Okay, so now we're done with crazy, right?
No.
Damn it. What else could possibly happen? It's not like our heroes could get together and like, I don't know, form a terrorist cell that operates off the books and like some weird like black ops function. I mean, that would be fucking strange.
Dave,
yeah,
get ready for some strangeness.
Oh boy.
Because that's exactly what they do.
I love that this goes from like G.I. Joe, real American hero, to like, fuck Cobra, we're gonna cut their throats in their sleep. It's like, wow, this got so dark, so fast. I mean, it's not far from that. Duke is giving them like the big talk at headquarters. He's like, we got to do something radical to obliterate Cobra. We got to go off the grid, use maximum force, but officially we won't exist. So this is like a choice, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I can't ask any of you to volunteer for this, but no, Cobra is a plague, and we need to rid the world of them.
Holy shit. They basically just became like a wet works operation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is 100% what happened.
Real fucked up. And I kind of want to see more of that.
Yeah.
Like I would watch like an adult, like G.I. Joe Black Ops, like wet works operation. Like, that'd be really gnarly. They never got that dark as far as I know. Maybe in the comics, but I don't think they ever got that dark.
Yeah, but that's like the end of it, is this like rousing Patton style speech from Duke, you know? And I think the incredible thing is, and I can't remember if we talked about this at the beginning of the discussion, is that they miss and they gloss over one of the most interesting points of this entire, like, of the entire why justification. Yeah. They mention it in one line that is at the beginning, saying that they captured Cobra Commander last month.
I think I think it's because that was in the direct-to-video stuff.
Sure. But like, to me, Cobra Commander, you know, is the big bad. Like, where Destro is calculated and cold, and he is like he's pulling up spreadsheets and he's figuring stuff out. Like, Cobra Commander is that type of terrorist that's just impulsive.
He's like a Joker,
emotional.
Kind of,
yeah, exactly. He just wants to watch the world burn. And to me, I'm just like, that establishes the why, but like at no point in time is Destro just like, I'm trying to get Cobra Commander back. He's like, nah, fuck it.
I'm just playing a game of chess.
SpaceX, blow it up. Like, and that's it.
Like Baroness says that like now we get our revenge for them taking Cobra Commander. It's like, do you want to maybe like go get him? Like, you want to like, you want to get your guy back? That's a good revenge.
You blew up a small shanty that was our what we were calling our Amazon depot.
It's literally a shack.
Yeah, it was a fucking shack. There's nothing there.
You blew up way more of your own shit.
We have an entire base in Arizona that nobody's touching. Yeah.
There's just like one invisible guy there. That's it. He's just jaying off most of the days anyway. So you could like literally just blow him up at any point.
You're a wizard now, Harry.
I mean, I know that there are a lot more characters in this series. Cobra Commander does come back. There is more opportunity here for some fun stuff, but I can't imagine it gets much better. Do you have anything else from this episode before we hear some differing opinions?
I'm frustrated.
Frustrated? Well, okay, then I'll tell you what. Let's jump to Love It, Hate It, and you take the Love It, and maybe it'll change your mind.
All right. So this comes from Sanzo Lover 2006. These are from IMDb reviews, and so this was one of the highest raters that we saw. This was in September of 2012, so not
pretty
super
recent.
long ago. Yeah. It says, I love this show. Everyone is being way too harsh on this series. It may not be like the one from the 80s, but it still teaches kids that they need to have each other's backs and that technology isn't the greatest thing.
Yeah, I don't see that at all, but okay.
I mean, I'm only 20, and I've seen the originals, and they are great. But to me, it lacked spark to me. It wasn't as entertaining and wasn't realistic. This is slightly more realistic. Then who am I kidding? I love anime. Okay, here we go.
Now we're getting into it.
And just because I wasn't born when the older show came out doesn't mean that I'm not a fan of them. And I know in order to keep fandoms going, they have to keep up with the time, which the 80s are outdated, and only people who are interested in seeing that what it is will go and see what it is.
That line.
The most confusing sentence
absolutely
ever.
Killed me. Go
ahead. Say what you want, but I love this show as well as the original.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
All right, well, just because somebody loved it doesn't mean somebody else didn't hate it. So here we go. I apologize for the language in advance. This will use the R word. I'm going to read it verbatim just because it makes me laugh. So this is from Zamtaro from December of 2010, so also fairly recent. It is titled G.I. Joe, Retarded Anime Hero. Here we go. This is pretty long. I edited it, but there's some good stuff in here, so here we go. By the mid-2000s, anime was big. Hasbro had already took Transformers down the anime route, producing mediocre titles such as Transformers Armada and Energon, both straight from Japan with all the typical bells and whistles of its genre. Action lines, cheap animation shortcuts, lame humor, rambling dialogue, quote, anime anatomy, end quote, like bulbous eyes and exaggerated expressions. G.I. Joe Sigma 6 was meant to be a continuation from where G.I. Joe Valor vs. Venom left off. While the ensemble of characters were the same, most of the G.I. Joe team got de-aged back to looking like young people in their early to mid-20s at most. Female characters like Scarlet, Jinx, and the Baroness seem to have undergone breasts enlargements for fan service sake. Sigma 6 has got to be the most childish installment of the G.I. Joe franchise yet. Characters are one-dimensional, the dialogue is cheesy, and episodic plots cross the line from simple to simplistic. Even the voice acting is no better than a typical Saturday morning anime like Pokemon. But perhaps the worst offender is the sound effects. Nearly every single sound effect seems like they are commonly used in too many anime, and sometimes the wrong sound effect is used. For example, one of the Cobra dreadnoughts fires and pumps a pump-action shotgun, yet the sound effect is one of a laser gun. Slipshod, sound engineering, or stupid attempt at censorship? You decide. 4 out of 10 stars.
Oh, man.
I probably should have read that last line like, for example, one of the Cobra dreadnoughts fires and pumps a pump-action shotgun. If the sound effect is one of a laser gun. Slipshod sound engineering or stupid attempt at censorship? You decide.
These people are screaming at their phones or their computers wherever they're listening to it, just shouting, shouting hate at us.
All over my microphone, just for you guys, by the way. All right, John, it's time for our recommendations. Do you recommend G.I. Joe Sigma 6? And if not, does it get the dip? And reminder, the dip means this show is erased from all existence forever. G.I. Joe.
I'm interested to see if they do sort of like this Black Ops kind of wet works assassination group.
There's no way.
And there's no possibility. I cannot recommend this show, but I will not give it the dip.
I'm going to agree with you. I don't think it's really worth seeking out. The Castle Rocket was kind of cool, and like that sequence, it's it's not even like, it's fun for a little bit, but not in like a lasting way. There's nothing super memorable about it. If I had nothing else to do with my life, maybe I'd watch a couple more episodes, but nah, can't recommend it. But it's still in the G.I. Joe canon. So G.I. Joe Legends, maybe. It's probably not canon at this point. So I can't recommend it, but I don't want to erase it just yet. I might change in the future, but we'll see. So not a great one for us here tonight, but there we are, G.I. Joe Sigma 6. Thanks, Roy.
Thanks, Roy.
No, this is great, though. This is why we ask listeners to suggest cartoons and series for us to check out, because sometimes we'll find something that we really love. Sometimes we'll find something that we really hate, and those are both great. And then we'll find some stuff in the middle, which is kind of where this one falls. But it was a fun watch. So February will continue with Listener Appreciation Month. We've still got 2 more episodes to run down. But in the meantime, Sean, buddy, what are you up to in the next couple of weeks?
Guys, I do live improv comedy in Washington, D.C. If you're in the area and you're interested in checking it out, you can head over to witdc.org and you can purchase tickets there. I'm going to be performing in San Diego. What? Going to be performing in San Diego at the San Diego Improv Festival. That will be February 17th. If you're in the SD area and you want to swing by, our show is at 9:30. And I'll be performing with a DC group that is called Knox. And as always, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Sean Paul
And we'll have all that information up on our website. You can also follow me on Twitter at DrClawMD. You can find me on Collider.com, Nerdist.com, and DaveTrumbore.com. If you want to find out more about the show, you can head to our Patreon site, patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. Remember, that's morning with a U. You can also head to our own website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Check us out on Twitter at MorningToons. Take a look at Sean's handiwork on our Instagram page. Keep the conversation going on Facebook. And then listen to our audio shows each and every week for free through YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. You can also be awesome and send us a suggestion through email, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. We'd love to tell you what's coming up next week, but guess what? That's only for Patreon supporters. So if you'd like to find out what we're talking about before next week rolls around, head on over to our Patreon page and sign up for our newsletter, and you'll have the entire schedule for the upcoming month. So we've got a couple more listener appreciation episodes this month. And then, man, we're going to head into March Madness. Last year we did Pocket Monster March Madness, which was a blast. And I got to use the maths, which was fun. Uh-oh. This year, man, we've got some cool stuff planned. Teasers.
Yeah.
Sean's not as excited as me, but
no, I'm very excited because every March I'm just like, I'm about to run this gauntlet.
Yeah.
This gauntlet of watching 2 shows a week.
Yeah, also that. And then trying to figure out how they add up and then getting mad at each other because our scores differ so much.
Oh, God.
If you want, go back and listen to Pocket Monster March Madness from last year. And every time Sean loved a thing, it's a really good chance that I hated that thing. So we just kind of like averaged each other out for the month. So luckily we had special guests like Mel Harker. We had some other special guests on to add like a little extra to the routine. So hopefully we'll be able to do that again this year in March. But until then, this has been Saturday Morning Cartoons. Just want to say thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Thanks.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.